They say that a national team is a reflection of the country's own politics. Do you believe that performance on the field is connected to that? Maybe you'll tell me no, but after watching this video, maybe you'll change your mind. There's something almost mystical about the way a country deals with its biggest crises. For Argentina, soccer has never been just a game. It has been the mirror of its soul, the barometer of its dignity, and many times the only escape valve for a reality that insisted on suffocating its people. Today's Argentine national team is very different from the one we had with Maradona, a far-left team that reflected a far-left population. Today, the team tells a different story. Thinking about the historic rivalry with England in the semi-final match, it's clear that it wasn't just about soccer. It was geopolitics wearing soccer cleats. It was the pain of a recent war, the weight of wounded pride. When the Argentine national team faced the English, they carried more than just a ball onto the field. They carried the frustration of millions of people who felt that the world owed them something. The real beauty of this story isn't in the easy victories. It's in the grit of the comeback. At that exact moment when the team is losing, physical exhaustion hits, the opposing fans sing louder, and everything seems set up for failure. It's at that moment that the true champion draws strength from the ground itself. He puts that strength in the sole of his foot, in the tackle, runs twice as hard, bleeds if he has to. There's no room for self-pity when the clock is running against you and you want to be a champion. That was the spirit of the Argentine team. That's a typically Brazilian thing. Today, at 42 years old, I remember very well when Brazil would start the game losing 1-0. I knew that a one-goal difference wouldn't be enough to hold back the determination our players have always had. Sadly, everything has changed today. That determination and drive our players always had is no longer seen. To govern in Brazil, the federal government needs to constantly negotiate with the so-called Central, a bloc of opportunistic parties that demands positions, ministries, and budget amendments in exchange for support. At the CBF, the dynamic is identical. The Centrão calls the shots. The president of the CBF doesn't stay in power because of the national team's performance on the field, but rather because of the support from his own electoral college, the state football federations. And today, as we know, we have the son of the gods of Olympus completely shielded in that position. In Congress, we often see mutual protection. Lawmakers avoid punishing their colleagues' excesses because they all know each other's dirty secrets. The environment at the CBF replicates this culture of mutual protection, which prevents any real renewal in sports management. The direct consequence is isolation. The ordinary citizen and the Brazilian fan become mere paying spectators of decisions made behind closed doors. The practical result of this disconnection is the same: an economy that loses momentum with the flight of investments, and a national team that loses its identity and international prominence. Meanwhile, the federal government insists on spending more than it collects. When we see the performance of the Brazilian national team on the field, we literally see the reflection of this lack of control and general mess. An environment of camaraderie where many players, after losing a major title like this and disappointing a nation, go out to party and get drunk as if they were champions. They have no respect at all, not even for the fans. Meanwhile, in Argentina, we see the opposite. And that's why today we're going to draw a parallel that many avoid making, but it's urgent. Argentina was playing the toughest match of its modern history. But this time, the playing field isn't the green grass of the Azteca Stadium or the Monumental de Núñez. The field is the economy, labor laws, and the future of a nation. After decades of watching its own decline under the weight of easy promises and welfare policies that bankrupted the country, Argentina decided to change its tactics. With the election of Javier Milei, the country abandoned the illusion that socialism delivers magical results and dove headfirst into the harsh but honest reality of free market capitalism. And guess what? Just like in a historic turnaround against England, the first moments of this new phase are not about celebrations. They are about pain, sweat, and hard work. To understand the need for a turnaround, we need to look at the scoreboard before the game started. How did Argentina get here? At the beginning of the 20th century, Argentina was one of the richest nations on the planet. The country's GDP per capita rivaled that of the United States and many European countries. But over the following decades, the country adopted a model based on excessive state interventionism. What started as a promise of social protection turned into a trap, the illusion of a free lunch. For years, people were sold the idea that the state could finance everything, subsidize everything, and control everything. The result? Chronic fiscal deficits, recurring hyperinflation, and the systematic destruction of private initiative. The average citizen was taught to depend on the government. A culture was created where individual effort seemed pointless because the currency lost value faster than you could work for it. Welfare, which should have been a temporary safety net, became the permanent economic model. In soccer, this is like a team going onto the field expecting the referee to decide the game or the opponent to hand them the win. A team that doesn't work on its fitness, doesn't study tactics, and when it starts losing, blames the field, the weather, or the refereeing. The truth is painful. Argentina's socialism spent what it didn't have. It printed money until it was worth less than scrap paper and put generations into debt. When Milei took office as president, the score wasn't just unfavorable. Argentina was losing badly, with one player down and almost no time left on the clock. When the locker room is in crisis, you don't need a coach who just coddles the players. You need someone who puts the truth on the table. And that's what happened. Javier Milei didn't promise any easy solutions in his inauguration speech. He was the first president in recent history to say clearly, there's no money. The beginning will be tough. This is the essence of shock capitalism that Argentina has started to implement. The reconstruction tactic: 1. A permanent zero-deficit policy. Don't spend more than you collect. 2. Deregulation of the economy. End of restrictions on production. 3. Valuing work. Focus on effort, not on subsidies. The transition from socialism to capitalism is not a magic trick. It's a profound cultural change. It means understanding that the state does not produce wealth. It only distributes what it confiscates from those who work. For Argentina to start growing, it was necessary to set free those who produce: the merchant, the industrialist, the rural worker. But how do you convince a society accustomed to subsidies to accept the harshness of the free market? The answer is by showing that the alternative is a slow death. The players of the Argentine national team didn't turn the game around against England by shouting. They turned it around because they ran to the limit of their strength. They knew that every pass, every tackle, every drop of sweat would determine the outcome of that match. In the economic field, Milei's reforms required the same level of commitment. Realistic capitalism doesn't promise wealth without effort. It promises that if you work hard, the fruit of your labor will be yours, not the state's. Now let's talk about what really hurts but is necessary. Realistic changes aren't made with pretty speeches in parliament. They're made with hard work every day. One of the most intense and realistic discussions in the new Argentina is the reform of labor legislation. For decades, Argentina's labor laws, extremely protectionist on paper, have created a devastating side effect. No one wanted to hire. The risk of a labor lawsuit or the cost of keeping a formal employee was so high that half the population was pushed into the informal economy with no rights at all. Life demands realism, and capitalist realism involves loosening rigid rules. And yes, the understanding that to produce more, you need to work more and more efficiently. We can break this down into 3 points. Point 1. Increased productivity. In rebuilding economies, the discussion about working hours stops being a first world idyllic debate and becomes a matter of survival. If you're behind on the scoreboard, you need to play overtime with the same intensity as the first half. Point 2. Flexible work schedules. Allow companies and employees to negotiate working hours and overtime directly without the suffocating interference of politicized unions. Third point, end the lawsuit industry. Reduce astronomical severance fines to provide legal certainty for those who want to create a job opening. There is no dignity in labor rights that prevent workers from getting formal employment. Many critics shout that this is taking away rights. But the realistic question is, what good are rights on paper if the worker is unemployed or selling trinkets on the street informally? The determination of the Argentine players against England was reflected in their willingness to run for 90 minutes and, if necessary, another 30 in extra time. They didn't ask to shorten the game time. They ran even more. Milei's realistic legislation proposes exactly that. Fewer restrictions, more freedom to work, and the acceptance that the path to prosperity requires double the effort. A historic comeback isn't secured with the first goal of the comeback. It is secured when the team keeps a cool head, protects the lead tooth and nail, and keeps attacking until the final whistle. Argentina is going through a period of transition. Inflation, which seemed uncontrollable, was starting to show the first signs of slowing down in the face of fiscal tightening. The country is once again recording a surplus, but ordinary people still feel the weight of the reforms. It's that point in the game when your legs feel heavy, your lungs burn, and the tension of falling back is enormous. But fall back to where? Back to the model that created poverty at 50%? Back to the model that destroyed the currency? There's no going back to that. Unfortunately, our brothers and sisters have learned. But in Brazil, that's exactly what was done, and that is also reflected in our national team. The great lesson that soccer and realist politics teach us is that glory does not come without sacrifice. The players who defeated England with grit and skill knew that their names would be recorded in history, not because they had an easy path, but because they overcame the most brutal adversity. The new Argentina that emerges from socialism and embraces capitalism is not in search of an easy economic miracle. It is discovering the value of work, individual responsibility, and freedom. The road is long, the historical burden is heavy, and the sweat is real. But, for the first time in a long time, Argentina is not just running after the ball, it is setting the pace of its own destiny. And for those who doubt the ability of these people to overcome, just remember what happens when they decide it's time to turn the game around. We also had a similar example with Paraguay itself. Little Paraguay, often discredited and made fun of, defeated one of the powerful world champions, Germany, by 4-3 on penalties. The victory was so tremendous that it even became a holiday in Paraguay. A country that advanced like never before in the history of football, also driven by a structural change in its politics. The Maquila law in Paraguay is a tax regime that allows foreign industries to be established with tax exemptions to spend on machinery and raw materials. In addition, if you earn money in any other country, Paraguay does not tax it when that money enters its territory. On the contrary, it comes in tax-free since it's money the country didn't have. You are bringing it in, enriching, whether you want it or not, the national treasury. Sadly, our country does the opposite in every way. We are mired in welfare dependency, and people keep buying into the story that the government will give me steak, the government will give me gas, the government will give me food, and so on and so forth. But everything they do, my brothers, is create bureaucracy, a machine for collecting taxes. And the more taxes you pay, the poorer the country gets, because no government generates wealth. With all this, we can understand that the Brazilian national team today is just a reflection of the very politics that the country has internally. To the world, which used to say that European soccer was superior to Latin American soccer, Argentina, with every goal, with every dribble, with every tackle, proves the opposite. Several times, the Argentine national team was considered weaker both technically and physically. Even so, they are winning. Even if Argentina, although I'm rooting for them, loses to Spain in the World Cup final, they are already victorious just for having come this far. Even more so when the star of their team, chosen as the best player in the match between Argentina and England, Lionel Messi, at 39 years old, who, although many people criticize him for doing commercials with goats, etc., that was determined by the sponsor. Messi, on the contrary, has done what no other player has ever done. He makes the sign of the cross in every match, looks up to the sky when he misses the ball with that look of "God, please help me." Besides that, the influence that a star player like that can have on younger players is enormous. You can be sure that through these simple gestures and the tattoo of Christ he got with the lotus flower, showing that it's possible for good things to happen, even in a bad environment, he encouraged many, really a huge number of young people to seek in God the strength to overcome. That's why Messi deserves all our respect. And that's why, even though I know how big the rivalry between Brazil and Argentina is, and Argentina owes us a lot, Brazilian fans with spiked water, a handball goal, and so on, even so, the current squad has nothing to do with that. I don't think we should try to pay back in the same way. I remember when our Ronaldo the phenomenon shined on the field. The whole world praised him, especially after a recovery when many said he would never play again, and he played and became world champion. All over the world, there was praise. In the Argentine newspapers, the headlines were, "Fat Guy Celebrates." I'm not going to get into that. Whoever lives in the past, my friend, belongs in a museum. This current squad that's out there is teaching the world that there's no such thing as superiority. Latin American soccer needs to be respected, and Argentina represents our entire continent, whether you like it or not. Go get them, Messi. Go get them, brothers. This video ends here. I hope you enjoyed it and above all understood it. If that happened, please share it. Show the truth of the matter to more people blinded and poisoned by the TV power structure. By doing this, by sharing videos like this, you help more videos like this get made, especially when you also leave a comment. It may seem silly, but every little word you write helps a lot with engagement. So thank you to everyone. For those who can give even more support, become a member. That helps a lot. God bless you, my brothers. Hugs, and we keep going together, always facing the supernatural, here on Encarando o Sobrenatural Official.